Welcome back to part 2 of our episode in Bellefonte of Hidden Happy Valley, where we're going to shift our focus from the Civil War to the context before that of the Underground Railroad and slavery.
Most of our stories draw their historical provenance from the writings of William H. Mills, a black barber in Bellefonte and grandfather to the famed Mills brothers.
William H. Mills wrote a history of St. Paul's AME Church in Bellefonte, where he attended. And in that, it was essentially a black history of the community and the Underground Railroad. And he had some fascinating things to share.
Mills writes, "Dear reader, at this juncture I shall have to ask your pardon and kind indulgence for this digression, as I feel deeply impressed to speak of the humane character of Mr. Thomas, which I feel sure is yet unknown, especially to many of the young people of our race and generation. Mr. William A. Thomas, as I have mentioned, was a member of the Society of Friends and also a bitter opponent of human slavery, like hundreds of other grand and noble men and women identified with the same Society of Friends. So strong was the sympathy of Mr. Thomas and his estimable companion, Mrs. Eliza Thomas, toward the fugitive slaves that their own fine private residence often afforded a shelter and hiding place for many men, women, and children fleeing from the cruel hand of slavery to a land of freedom."
So this is the residence behind us that William H. Mills is talking about, that was used as his own fine private residence of William A. Thomas and his wife Eliza. So many men, women, and children were harbored in this house. This is probably the most well-documented safe house that was used by freedom seekers and a conductor named William A. Thomas.
So this is one of the oldest structures in Bellefonte, tracing its roots back to the 1780s.
William A. Thomas was an ironmaster and his family were Quakers. And his family owned this house prior to the Civil War during the days of the Underground Railroad and used it as a station.
One of the families we know that were helped by William A. Thomas was the Welsh family.
Yeah, John Welsh is actually buried in Union Cemetery, and his son, Isaiah Welsh, who they brought here as an infant, who likely was harbored in this house as a baby, he grew up and actually volunteered during the Civil War for the 54th Massachusetts and 55th Massachusetts regiments. Another story that involves Governor Curtin before he was governor and the Underground Railroad happened in 1856 in that hotel, and what was known then as the Pennsylvania Hotel. A man named Henry Thomas was working there in 1856, and he was a freedom seeker. He was an African-American man that was from out of town, and he was working in there. Two gentlemen from either Maryland or Virginia, says the source, came looking for him. They were bounty hunters, looking for their reward, and they were specifically looking for Henry Thomas. They found him in there, and they must have convinced him to help them with their luggage or get near their carriage, and they kidnapped him in broad daylight. A short time afterward, Curtin comes riding into town, and the people of Bellefonte are upset. There's people on the streets right here in the Diamond, hysterical, saying they have kidnapped, they have taken Henry Thomas. So they're asking Mr. Curtin for leadership. This is before he's the big shot governor. This is before he's friends and allies with Abraham Lincoln. And he rounds up a posse of men of like-minded sentiments, they say. And a posse means horses and guns. And they go after Henry Thomas. Unfortunately, they are not successful in rescuing Henry Thomas, and he is taken back into slavery, and the source says he's never heard of again. That is a sad story, but a reality of the Underground Railroad time period. This is why people are hiding in attics or in basements or in the woods or in barns or traveling clandestine at night. So that story shows that Mr. Curtin, the guy who's going to become governor of Pennsylvania during the Civil War, who's going to support the Emancipation Proclamation, who's going to sit next to Abraham Lincoln at the Gettysburg Address. Even before all that, he practiced what he preached, and he went after Henry Thomas to try to rescue him. And it also shows you that the long arm of slavery could still reach out into central Pennsylvania and grab you if you're running away from slavery in 1856, especially after the fugitive slave laws of 1850.
thanks for joining us on our special two-part episode featuring Bellefonte's Civil War and Underground Railroad history.
Yeah, we're at the Bellefonte Art Museum, which is believed to be a stop on the Underground Railroad, and it's a great place to learn about it because you can go in their permanent exhibit upstairs to engage with the topic.
You can continue learning about the Underground Railroad through their wonderful self-guided tour that begins here.
Visit Local Historia to find and experience the self-guided tour. Remember to explore more of Bellefonte and Happy Valley while you're on your adventure.
Be sure to like and subscribe and drop a comment for where we should explore next.